hear me, right?
Yes.
Speak loud. My moment break, I'm going to be tapping. Okay, let me out of here. Well, anyway, what I'm going to tell you about now, there were two things basically in Mexico that talked about this ancient sacred ceremony, the deified heart. One of them was the Tres Stelas of Xochimilco. I'll talk about that in a little bit. What I'm going to talk about now was one of the pages of the Utah-Toto Mixed Text Codex. This codex was for a long time called the Vienna or Vendiosa Codex because it was stolen by Cortez out of Montezuma's palace. And I was talking to her today. Most people don't even know who Montezuma's people were. They weren't Spanish soldiers. You don't want to know who they were? I'll tell you who they were. They were Greeks. They were Italians. There were a lot of black Africans from the northern Africa. There were a lot of Moors. There were a lot of Portuguese, and there were a lot of Italians. But they all had one thing in common. They were bloodthirsty soldiers of fortune. They were like mercenaries. You got it. Okay? Now, what we're talking about, this civilization before them had a different way of thinking. There was a monistic view of thinking. Only like the Tao Te Ching has that type of thinking with the key energy, and we'll get into this later. But what I'm going to talk to you now is about this codex, which was found in Cortez's palace with one other, which was like almost like an encyclopedia of all sorts of sacraments and stuff. Now, this particular page here was done on deerskin. And it's read this way up and then over and down. That was their way of reading. And the people that read these, the male and female people who read this, they were called the old crinklers. What were they called, old crinklers? They were turning pages that were bound together. They were made of deerskin with sacred colors and stuck on over, so they were bound to crinkle. Now this story here is how to meet and become Quetzalcoatl, the greatest healing ceremony there is, the ceremony to actually where you're going to become Quetzalcoatl. Very simple ceremony. What you got to realize, this society didn't separate male and female. They thought of it as a metronome. Get rid of the word and. They didn't separate life and death. Get rid of and. You know what a tilde looks like? That little thing on your computer that's a tilde? It was like a metronome to them. Okay. And they also separate time and space, and they had several different symbols for time and space. And that's what you have to realize. They didn't have, which started with Plato, and the church really did in the medieval ages, forced a dualistic and hierarchical way of thinking, which is a Western way of thinking. And basically, this way of their thinking, the Tamilian but mushroom sages, these men and women, figured out how to see three types of energy and think monistically. Just like the Chinese Tao Te Ching and a lot of the Polynesians that were into math. Okay, this particular ceremony here was a super ceremony of death and resurrection. Because of that, the ancient Nahua Mesoamericans considered there was only 2 days important in your life. The day you were willed into existence, the day the hand of creation willed you into existence, and you shot out of that uterus for whatever reason, and now it's up to you to figure out why. Why'd they shoot you out here in this place? You know why? You've got to figure out why now. And so this particular ceremony was for you to find out why. Now, if you start to see this ceremony and look at it, now the bottom's not showing down here. I need to get this bottom to show or something. Okay. There we go. It's getting bigger. You got to get him to come up there, though. got here is at the start of this ceremony. This is a ceremony about you as an issue. You're going into resurrection and rebirth physically. You're going to be a new person physically, but you're also going to go into a new rebirthing and be reborn again on earth. Now, in this particular ceremony, this is not some ego thing. It's not about your ego. You're going to pass being afraid of death. You're going to be afraid. You're going to go way past the fear of death. And while she's telling you something, I'm going to tell. I'll go into something else I'll let you know about. A personal friend of mine who wrote a book about a type of awareness and being in different states. He wrote a book about inside the mind of the super athlete. He was the site coach the 2 years Jimmy Donovan's team won national championships. He taught me a lot about the different stages of awareness, about absorption, attention, and being super aware. Oh, okay, here we are.
Almost. I got to cut off the title. Is that okay?
Yeah, we'll talk the title. We'll come back to that later. There we go. I don't care about the title. What I was going to try to tell you, remember what she was telling you about all these muscular things? Here's what it does for an athlete, and why will make an athlete a super athlete, and why the athletes that are in the UNO use it. It gives you monosynaptic reflexes. Now, why do I use my friend in Michael Jordan as an example of that? Michael Jordan will be the best basketball player ever, but you just can't say that. You have to have a way you're going to be that, don't you?
Right.
There's going to be a way you have, a price you have to pay to be that, right?
Right.
Michael Jordan's was, in my friend's book, that he practiced like hell. Practice was hell. If there weren't people, that Bulls had to get rid of a lot of people that were in practice like him. You know why? Michael Jordan, when he went on the court, wanted to be the players he were, like karate players. He wanted to have monosynaptic reflexes. And here's the difference. When you have monosynaptic reflexes, let's say you there would swing at me. Normally an impulse goes to my nervous system, to my spine, to my brain, and back, right? Like that. In monosynaptic reflexes, your brain isn't involved. It goes from the outside to your body and back. It makes you unbelievably quicker. It makes you faster. But here's another thing. It makes you be able to run a lot faster. It's pretty amazing because your heart and your breath are totally coordinated together. It puts breathing and your heart pulse in perfect coordination, whether you want it or not. And there's a book that Albert Hoffman wrote, who invented LSD, and Schultes wrote, and it's actually a medical book. It was written called The Botany and Chemistry of Hallucinogens. It's basically a medical book. And there's a section when it talks about certain things, like psilocybin, it says, well, what does it do to the body? You know what I'm saying? Well, there's all these terms that they're using because they have to, they're medical terms, right? But for an example, this says in there, it gives humans patella-like reflexes. Now what does that mean? Medically. It's giving you reflexes like a cat. It's turning your movements into like an actual human cat. You're moving way smoother. When people figure this out, that you can take it by mouth, it cannot be detected, there's going to be super athletes out there. You'll see people moving like cats on the field. The UMA athletes are taking it now, and it's legal and in it, and they're actually having it studied, and they ask them, why are you taking it? Well, they've been saying 4 reasons. One, it makes me way quicker. And another guy said, I can read people's body language and figure out what they're going to do before they even do it. And another weird guy said, I like the box, but there's something in my past, my ancestry, or whatever, has told me not to hit people. And I got this thing working, and that finally got rid of that. So there's all sorts of reasons, but it's basically because it's making them quicker and faster and be able to read body language.
Deep. Deep.
That stuff's on YouTube. I'm not telling you anything exotic.
Deep.
All right, there you go.
Go on, Tom. That's right, man.
All right, now, in this one here, basically this is an actual place where supposedly the ancestors came from. It's a place in Oaxaca called Apacacololo River. And this particular river, also called the Utatono, was a sacred river where supposedly the ancestors came from. And these two little things right there represent deities and deities of the river. Now this symbol right here, and you'll see the use this symbol a lot, represents ordinary time. The Mexicas had different sorts of symbols for time and different types of time, but it was not only just time, but time and space. Now, the next symbol up here you see is four lizard. And four lizard represents the sacred mushroom. And these different colors on the ball, especially black and red, really represent a lot because red was a very sacred color, and especially green and black. Now what we have here is an ancient sage, a Tamerlan sage. There were male and female Tamerlan sages, and he's sitting on a serpent rug, and he's talking to Quetzalcoatl. Now, this Quetzalcoatl is just not any Quetzalcoatl. There's about 20 Quetzalcoatls. And this is why, if you don't understand monism, and you try to understand this from a dualistic perspective, you're going to go mad. Because
Right.
Quetzalcoatl can change into his grandmother, his sister. He can become his best friend. He can shape-shift into all sorts of other things. And other religions don't do that. So when you start figuring this out, you throw your hands up. You understand how to think monistically. Quit thinking about things separately. Okay, well anyway, so that's life and death too. So anyway, he's called Nine Wind here, or Ektal, meaning the god of the wind. I was in a celebration one time, a healing ceremony for a guy in Goblin Canyon in Utah. We've been there 3 or 4 days, and we were doing a celebration for Quetzalcoatl. I'd been dead calm, no wind, no nothing, and all of a sudden, a whirlwind comes up. I mean, a whirlwind blowing sparks all over the fireplace. And Quetzalcoatl came and literally swallowed this guy like a serpent, a rainbow light swallowing a rabbit. And healed him. But what I'm going through in this ceremony, I got off the track because right behind him is the jaguar, the sacred jaguar of the underworld. Now up here we have Lady Four Mushroom. Lady Four Mushroom. She's a symbol of the sacred part of the feminine in the earth. But remember now, they don't totally separate male and feminine. They do not do that. Not at all. But she is Lady Four Mushroom. And right in front of her is Four Lizard, who represents, uh-oh. Did I plug this? Okay, that's now you notice Lady Four Lizard is on Quetzalcoatl's back, but he's in royal regalia now, and Four Lizard has been changed to 11 Lizard. What does that mean? That means that Quetzalcoatl is starting to take the ceremony. This is the homecoming of the sacred ceremony. This is the homecoming of the initiate who's going to become Quetzalcoatl. By intent, the person is going to become Quetzalcoatl. Now, right above this, you notice the symbol for infinity. And the most important thing Quetzalcoatl did is just down here help find a coin. You see Quetzalcoatl's pointing with his finger up. He's pointing to open the valley of the ancient dead. He's pointing to Talak over here, which is represented by this color of jade, which actually reflects to the living. Back here, the plants on earth, to the valley of the ancient days, reflecting open up the world in between. Open up the world in between. And this is what unbelievably Nahua, Mesoamerican anthropologists are talking about this today, and the rest of the world didn't even hear them. They're talking about these people, and these people said, I can't believe it. After all these years, I'm finally going to say it. They were actually talking to the non-human other. I have to say this now, I cannot. And people at the end of their careers, you know, they're finally saying, these guys were actually talking. They have a term now, the OTH. Well, anyway, he's walking toward the valley of the